Italia!
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Milanistas 360. So today we have another very special episode with a very special guest. So I'd like to introduce him first. We have Coach Nico from the Defensive Dynamo podcast. So please, for anyone who's watching, please give him a like, a follow. He's on YouTube. He's also on Instagram that I've seen. Any other platforms, Nico?
Some fun facts. Also being part of the Milan Weekly podcast family starting this month.
Okay,
So
that's
I'm putting
great. And
some
yeah,
fresh new content for that one as well.
it's great content coming up from Coach Nico. So yeah, for those who are listening in, thank you for tuning in, and yeah, please give him a follow as well. So, in addition to Nico, the usual co-host, the mentors of madness here, we have Shane and Lab Gorilla joining us as usual. So, yeah, how you guys doing? How's the weekend? Yeah, hopefully for all Milan fans across the world, it's been a good 24 hours so far. How about you, John? Just to start things off, how are you feeling after the
Yeah,
result that we had?
I mean, as I mentioned to you guys, I think on the Frosinone game, I'll wait for you guys to do the post game, the game review. But a win, I'm happy with it. I'm starting to form a hypothesis, which I will talk about it regarding the type of football that we're playing. Just one thing to begin with is I want to thank someone who posted a comment on our last video, Atelier Deck 4974, regarding the orientation of our images. We were experimenting and we have gone back to the way that we used to have so that we can show diagrams, especially today as we've got Coach Nico with us. It's really important to have nice, crisp images. So we strive to improve and listen, and we've gone ahead and gone back to the original orientation that you can do. So looking forward to today. We're going to have a lot of questions, a lot of stuff to get on with. So how was your week, Shane?
I was good, man. So what I've learned is, so my IPTV box, right, didn't have the game. So I went to watch it in the bar. And what I've learned is, I already do this, but anytime I go for a piss, right, someone scores. But the thing is I have no control over who scores. So when I came back, it was like, it was Woodall, right? Because Frosinone equalized, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. But like, so it was anyway, we'll cover it a bit later, but the week was good. Transfer market activity or lack thereof wasn't so good, to be honest. And it's a shame, really, but I think, this speaks in volumes that Pioli isn't the guy we're going to have next year, for me. Because if they're not, he's basically came out and said that he's asked for players and he wasn't furnished with them. So that's the last nail in the coffin there, I think. But besides that, from a Milan point of view, I mean, we're putting together a kind of a steady run. The table looks kind of good. We're only, what, is it 6 points behind Inter now? Obviously, they have 2 games in hand, so here's hope they lose the next fucking 5 games in a row. And we have some chance of getting top. But yeah, I think, how about you, Nico? How was your week, man?
Good. I'm settling into our new home down here in Playa del Carmen in Mexico. And I caught the game here at home. And like I said, I noticed the same things. We did play better yesterday, but I need to see that more consistently, especially from Pioli in terms of his in-game tactics. He made some good subs yesterday, which actually helped us win the game. But those are, those moments are not as often as we'd like to see them, right? As we've seen in the past, putting Shanu late in the game, hoping he would, perform well. And we saw how that ended for us. And in terms of closing the table on Juve and Inter, unless they have a catastrophic injury to one of their big players, I don't see us closing it.
Which I think is
Top
fair enough.
three, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. So because we've got a lot of content, are we ready to move on to, because we have to do the review? It feels weird, but we didn't do, last week's podcast was on a Saturday, so we didn't see the Bologna game. So should we do the Bologna review? I've got notes, so I can go first if you guys want. You okay with that?
Your audio's
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
in and out a bit, John. Yeah.
Yeah, your mic, John, is. Okay, well, whilst he's setting that up. Yeah, so first game to review is Milan against Bologna. Just keeping in mind that Bologna is a team that quite a few of the top teams fear because they've had quite a few scalps. Scalps not in sense of winning against most of the major teams up there, but they've actually taken points off them. Inter being one of them, something that we didn't manage to do. And of course, it's a good game to see how Thiago Motta will actually do because he's one of the coaches that's actually rumored to be Pioli's replacement for next season. So it was interesting. I think just to put my some of my thoughts is that 4 goals scored. It looked to be one of those games that I thought we might be able to pull through by just a 1 goal advantage. But yeah, like I was mentioned, there was that sub Terracciano came on and a short pull that I think didn't need to happen, but it happened. Even the situation itself I found a bit hilarious because there were so many defenders lined up and with the ball cutting across them. Unfortunate. Last minute, so there's no way to recover beyond that. But on the whole, I thought that Loftus-Cheek, great game, man of the match. And had it stuck with the last goal at the 83rd minute, we would have taken 3 points. However, it's the story of Milan. We couldn't have it so easy, so I had to settle for a goal. So, John, your review of the game.
Testing audio. Am I okay?
Yeah, your mic is good. Yeah,
excellent. Right. 18 minutes. Leao cuts into the box, beats their number 29, shoots across goal. Actually, very good save by, I think his name is Skorupski, their goalkeeper. 28th minute. All I've got in my notes here is an absolute joke of a defensive display on the 20th minute. Later on, Coach Nico is going to break that down, what happened in the 28th minute. So I won't go into the details of it. All I'm going to say is it ended up with a ball going through Maigna's legs. 38th minute, Theo from the right side lobs a ball in, high boot on Kier, penalty. Motta gets himself a red card for complaining about it. Giroud basically scuffs the penalty really, really badly. The way I put it is in my notes here, he passed it to the keeper. 44th minute, Calabria crosses in. So you have to give him credit for this. It's a good cross in. Who is running in to finish at the near post? Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Just another one of those marauding runs. 40th minute, we've got basically someone called, is his name Fab? I don't know. There's a player who crosses to Xerxes. He does an incredible control. He cuts out everybody out in the Milan box with his control, but then blasts the ball over the bar. It was incredible that he didn't even get the shot on target there. And the 63rd minute, Reindeer got a ball that came in from a corner. It rebounded out to him outside the area. And he hit a shot. I don't know if you recall, guys, but it hit the corner of the post and the crossbar. It was a beautiful shot. Just very unlucky there. 71st minute, Leao runs into the box and gets a hand into his face, just out of the blue. The defender just goes like that, smashes him in the face, and he goes down. Stonewall penalty. And Theo hits a decent penalty, but against the post, really hard against the post, without anyone touching it. It comes back to him and he puts it away. But of course, because no one else touched it, it's offside. That is the rule. And then Florenzi, comes in on the 82nd minute. He puts a lovely dink into the back post. And once again, who's the player that's running in and putting a bullet header? Is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. No one else could get in his way. 89th minute, Orsolini crosses into the box. It's a complete mess in the box. Everybody's like, oh, where's this ball going across the box? And when you slow down, you notice that Christensen was pulled back by Terracciano, really obvious pull. And Orsolini steps up. Actually, that was his first goal, according to the reporter. It was his first goal against Milan. Magnan got a hand to it. Just want to, went underneath Magnan, he got his hand to it. So it finishes 2-2. 2 missed penalties. I think it's the first time since 2015 that this has happened. And it came up also in Pioli interviews. Just very unfortunate. I think we had plenty of chances to win that game. Bologna are a good team. We have to keep an eye on them. They I think, are going to be kind of there or thereabouts at the end of the season, 4th or 5th place. And if Serie A gets 5 places in the Champions League, maybe they might scrape in. So, yeah, that's my review for that. What about you? Let's say Nico.
Sure, you hit up on all the points. I guess we'll break down those goals, correct? That
Yeah,
saw?
we'll do that later. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Like I said, my biggest thing was, besides the 2 PKs missed, that was just terrible. They were horrible PKs. I didn't expect that from Giroud and Theo back to back. I mean, that was routine saves for the keeper, obviously. In most cases, you want to go really just smash right in, top left, right corner, not, just they try to maybe maybe they were thinking too much about the penalty shot and trying to outsmart the keeper. I don't know, but it didn't work, obviously. 2 big missed opportunities, and that penalty against Terracciano, that was based on his inexperience. You're putting a kid at 20 years old, right? Late in the game is tied. Why are you taking Pulisic out of the game? Pulisic plays defense. We've seen it. He plays decent defense because he's experienced. He's played in big games, Champions League games with Chelsea. And you take him out and you put this kid in. Why not put somebody else in or keep Pulisic in the game? And that's what happens. And another thing too, I wanted to quickly just mention is the lack of communication between our keeper, because he's the one that sees the whole pitch, and our back line. They should be communicating with everybody in the box what's going on, who's moving where, who's shifting where. And maybe Terracciano didn't hear it or it didn't happen, but obviously he got caught off guard and he pulled his shirt. And that's when we end up losing the game through that.
Yeah. Is that Shane? Did we get a comment on you on the Bologna game? I can't.
Yeah, so I think you've covered pretty much everything, but I think the key takeaway for me was just how good Xerxes is. And I don't just mean, like as a striker, but in terms of, there was, for an awful lot of that game, he was playing in the midfield. He was coming back, he was getting the ball, and he was basically, he was running forward with it. It would be such an upgrade to have him over Giroud. Like, if we could, this is going to play out how it's going to play out. And he'll probably end up going to, I don't know, Newcastle or something for 50 million. But I think if reports are to be believed, he's available for 40. So, this kid is good. He's he just, in terms of overall play, not just as a striker, but just in terms of not being lazy, not being selfish, this kid is it. If rumors are to be believed, Giroud is going to be finishing up in the summer, or potentially, going for a holiday to the MLS. So, if that's the case, we need to be getting Xerxes, because he ticks all the boxes, and I'm so impressed with that player. But otherwise, yeah, the analysis is correct though. Two drop points. I know Bologna are playing well this season, but when it comes to the situation that we're just dropping points against teams like this, that's the difference in quality between us and Juventus and Inter, right? And the annoying thing is about it, right, when you look at Juventus especially, right, Inter, you can understand their success because they bought well. They've been very smart in the transfer window. Juventus have done essentially nothing, right? and they're like, I mean, to be honest, what is a very average squad, Allegri's getting amazing results, and that's the difference then between obviously us having Pioli and Juventus having Allegri right now. I mean, if you're like very close to the top of the Serie A, and your midfield consists of who's it, Rabiot, Locatelli, and what's the US guy?
McKennie.
McKennie.
Oh,
Yeah, McKennie.
No,
Like
no,
if you're
McKennie, yeah.
McKennie, yeah. So like if your midfield consists of those three players, and you're so close to being top of the Serie A, like the coach deserves a medal at that point. So like it just shows the gulf in class that that the other Serie A clubs have, and I think
Shane, you don't need superstars to win games. The
I
right
love
coach,
that saying. Come on, you
it's
don't need
true.
superstars to win games.
They play
It's
as
a
a team,
Moneyball
as a
statement.
unit. Yeah, they have a DNA. They have an approach, and you see the way they play every single game.
yeah, but that's the
They
thing.
work.
They have a method. They have
Yeah,
a
the
method,
method.
and if method A doesn't work, then they do method B. Right? It's like they have a plan. If plan A doesn't work, we'll go for plan B, and they get results. And our plan is literally huff the ball to Leo, hope he gets into a good position, passes it in, and then someone scores. For the most part, like it's shallow. It's awful.
All right. Cool. Frosinone game. I'll let you guys take this, and I'll be last because I saw the least of this game.
Okay. So yeah, the game yesterday that we just recently witnessed was against Frosinone. So this is a away match. I had thought that the game was supposed to have been quite a straightforward breeze, considering that we should bounce back after what happened against Bologna. However, to me it looked very scrappy. We had players falling over. I don't understand what was going. Maybe something wrong with there's a problem with the pitch, but I was really worried in the beginning of the game. I was really worried, but as it progressed, I grew increasingly worried up to the point of despair, saying that we're probably going to lose this game. But then, just like against Udinese, some substitutions, and I'll credit Pioli a little bit about that. He made the right subs, and we got the 3 points. But just like what we spoke about before, another high-scoring game, and it shouldn't be that way. So Nico, I mean, what were your thoughts about the game?
Well, listen, that first goal, and I mentioned it yesterday in one of the chats. You really can't put a blame on Liat. He's not a defender. He's not used to putting his hands in the back like defenders are taught, right? He's a winger. He's an attacking player. He doesn't have that sense to put his hands behind his back to prevent handballs in the box. So you can't really blame the kid for that. Maybe it happens, right? He didn't put his hand out inadvertently to stop the ball. He was just in motion, and it happened. It's unfortunate. The second
in addition
one,
to that, sorry, Nico. In addition to that, when I looked at it, just from my perspective and looking on television, it looked like he was out of the box. I don't know whether in the speed of things, you might be
in the
unsure of
US,
whether you are.
Yeah, in the US, they showed the replay, and I mean, the ruling is because his back heel of his right foot was touching the middle of the line of the 18-yard box, of the penalty area, of the inside the 18 box. I think that's why they called it. Because at first, initially, at real time, it didn't look like it was a penalty. It was outside the box. But when they showed the replay, and I could see why it was. It wasn't a terrible call on that. And the second goal, that's Sule, correct, scored?
Mazzitelli.
Sule
Mazzitelli,
got the
yeah.
penalty.
Yeah, that second goal, that was on Benny, correct? That Benny, I mean, again, Benny, he did the right thing, but he covered his player, but Benny, he's not 100% yet. He's injured. He's still recovering. He doesn't have that speed, and he just got caught. And unluckily for Mike was in the right spot. He covered that near post, and he took the right technique to stop the ball, right? What like keepers are taught to do in those situations. but the ball just took a nasty bounce off the pitch and just went over his right leg.
Yeah, after you posted that was really like a lot of conversation on the chat about that. And I looked at it again this morning after you said that ball bobbled, and I slowed it down, and you can clearly see the ball just bouncing right over his leg. Just a tiny bounce that it took, and it was enough. Otherwise, if it had been to the ground, he would have got that. But it's unfortunate on that, I guess.
We've given up worse goals before in other games. We've had
Well,
breakdowns.
Yeah, we've had a goal in the previous game that went through his leg. So
that's what I mean. So the goals weren't horrible. Yeah, that we should have given up those goals, but maybe one goal, the second one, but the first was going to happen regardless. So it is what it is.
anything that stood out to you, Shane?
No. Besides the fact that, as I said earlier, anytime I go for a piss when I'm watching the game in a bar, someone scores. So, but the thing is I can't control who scores. So it's kind of hit or miss. So,
try to go to the ladies' bathroom, Shane. Maybe we'll.
That's it. Change it up a bit. If I don't get arrested, I get
So you need to ask them. You need to ask them to put TVs in the bathroom for you.
That's it. Change it up a bit. But no, it was a good game. But I'm convinced that the Zurich jersey is cursed. So I think this is the thing. I think it was like we were getting ran through so easily though at one point. I mean, the first half was shocking, right? Like, I mean, you would swear Frosinone were Real Madrid. Like, the amount of possession they had, they were so fucking dangerous as well. Like, and I was going, this makes no sense for a lower league team. This makes no sense. And we were kind of, and so I was watching it. And all the Gabbia fanboys now are going to be like, creaming in their chairs because it's like, their very average player has come up and scored a goal for us. And he's prime Baresi now because of that. But again, fair dues to him, he did get us, he obviously helped us get the win. So that was good. Jovic as well is kind of, I'm finding that player hard to understand, right? Because like, it's like, and I think it was the same situation with Rebic, right? Once they're switched on, they're amazing. Once they're switched off, they're just, they're useless, and you can't switch them back on. Christian,
very old-fashioned, dude. Jovic reminds me of a very old-fashioned type of player. I don't know who I texted this to. It might have been you, Nico. There was a player in England who some of you should all know who he is, Gary Lineker. When he played, he was always inside the 6-yard box, and he always used to just finish that ball because he used to be in the right place at the right time, just to, just flick it in, just to get the knockdowns and things like that. Jovic does a lot of that kind of work, which makes him quite an interesting kind of player. True enough, Pioli has compared him to Giroud, actually, saying in terms of their technique is kind of similar. That's Pioli himself saying that. And the other thing about the Gabbia goal is I just want to remind people who launched that ball across the pitch for Giroud to head down for Gabbia to finish off, none other than Adli himself. So, that technique is quite, it's unmistakable now that person that gets the ball from that flank and just fires it so long. We've got no other players that do things like that. I think the closest from the right side is Florenzi that can hit a ball like that. But again, I was just curious because I didn't see the whole game. How was Adli's game overall? Can you guys tell me? Was he invisible except for that moment, or how did he do?
Can I go ahead? Who would like to start first on this one?
You can go ahead, Nico. Go ahead.
All right. So there were two things I know. So obviously, the fact that my podcast is focused on defense. So I really focus on that, especially in the first half. There were two things I noticed from Adli. One positive, one negative thing. So in the 38 minute, he actually had good coverage. Frosinone was attacking in the box, and Adli actually covered Gabbia behind him. so he was in the right position, I believe, and cleared the ball, which he hasn't done that in the past. If you notice, when he first started playing for us more consistently, he made a lot of mistakes within the box, giving up silly fouls right outside of the box. He's not doing that. So his positioning is getting better. He's understanding better. He's communicating with his teammates better, which is great. However, this wasn't a goal scoring opportunity, but it could have been if it was a better cross from the right side from the opposing team. In the 40th minute, 59 seconds, on the play, remember Calabria went down. He was holding his butt cheeks. All right, during that play, Sule was open on the back post behind Calabria. And Ali was the closest player because I actually stopped the game and actually rewinded it a couple of times. Ali was the closest player to Sule, and he didn't even check his back shoulder to see him making the run. He just stood there. And if the cross from the right side, I forgot who crossed the ball. If it actually went over the defense, Sule would have been wide open for a shot in the back post. Like I said before, it could have been, again, this goes down to communication and being aware of your field. And that's an experience of Madley or just needs more game time. Is you have to scan your right shoulder, left shoulder consistently. That's what really good players do. They scan maybe within a minute 10 times within a game. And Ali didn't do that, and that could have cost us another goal if that cross was better from Frosinone.
I have a question, Nico, about Adli, and it's something I wanted to ask you for a while.
Sure.
So Adli, before when he came to us, when he was in Bordeaux, I saw him playing a midfielder as part of a three-man midfield. So when we started the season, we were doing the 4-3-3. Now it seems we're back to the 4-2-3-1, and I think the double pivot is expected to be a little bit more defensive-minded. Do you think Adli has that in him, or is it something that he needs to learn?
Well, he's showing promise. It just takes time, Husney. He has it. I mean, for sure, it takes time. Because naturally he's a creative player, correct? That's his game. Defense, that's not a natural thing for most players. You have to learn that over time, and actually be more comfortable with your teammates too. So
Fabio's just working on getting this listed.
Yeah, he just needs more time because he shows promises now. It's a little game by game. He's showing the ability to defend better.
So you think he could grow into a
he's a young
more defensive midfielder?
How old is he?
That's a good question.
23,
I don't
isn't
know.
he?
Is he that young?
Yeah, I think it's 23, 24. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so young.
That's so young.
Wow.
If he was 34, 32, 30, I'd say probably not. But I see it. Fabio, of course.
Troll. Fabio, come on.
Yeah. he doesn't like Ali because he's too good looking for him. That's why.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's too pretty for Fabio.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
Thanks for that. That was really interesting on those goals. I think, listen, we've won 3-2. We've taken the points. I think we solidified third place. We're kind of like in this, I call it limbo, and it caused a lot of problems in the chat when I said the word limbo, right? People went mental at me saying it can't be a limbo. But Nico, so we've got you on today. We've got a few questions that we posted to you. I'm going to share some slides from images that you wanted to have a look at from the Bologna game and our defensive display there, specifically that goal on the 28th minute, because it was a mess. It'd be great to get your kind of insight into what was going on. So let me just share this, and then you guys tell me if it's visible, yeah? And Nico, you tell me when to change slides, okay?
Okay. So let's go. First one. Now, obviously, you can see we're all over. We're not even compact. I mean, we have a 3v2. Well, if you count Mike, that's 3v3, right? But in reality, it's a 3v2. Is that Tajani back there making or Pulisic? I'm not sure who's making that run back. So they're late on the run back on covering, and we're caught off guard. So right there, that's Serki on the right. Serki on the left, on the right side with the ball. I mean, you got Kair defending two players right there. That's just unorganized, and that we've seen that time and time again for us. There's no excuse for this at all from our team.
Sorry,
this-
Nico, just a
and this-
question. Just
Sure.
sorry to interrupt. What Mike is doing? He's gesturing.
Correct.
I
He's
don't quite understand how.
communicating.
What does that mean? Like
He's
watch the other guys
looks
or
like-
push him away?
he's
What does it mean?
I don't know. It can mean anything. It might be something that they've worked on in practice. To me, he's telling Kair, hey, maybe check your back shoulder, maybe.
Yeah. It looks like there's a
That's
player
fine.
running back as well. He's trying to
there's
make
a
up the
there's a
space.
player running back. Correct. Yeah.
Mm.
And things like this, I mean, obviously, Pioli's staff is analyzing these previous games and they're putting their reports together, right? And giving it to Pioli. I don't know what Pioli does with it. Does he throw it in the garbage? I have no idea. But we've seen this time and time again, and this is a good example of what we've been disorganized majority of the season with our defense. And this falls on Kair because he's the experienced center back, and Mike as well.
Yeah. Ready for the next one?
Second one. Let's go.
Jeez.
This looks like a circus. This looks like something out of Barnum and Bailey Circus. Yeah. This is another case of just being a mess in the back.
So this is
as
just
well.
4 seconds later.
Yeah.
I love that because it's kind of that thing if you don't realize how horrifically bad it is in real time. But it's when you pause it and slow it down, you're just like, I mean,
And they had scored during this time, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, it's the same pattern over and over again that we're seeing. Just a total mess, and there's no leadership in the back. Mike, I don't know if Mike has fallen off this year a little bit, but I expect more from Mike and Kair as well.
Who are the two players on the ground? So one is Kier, right?
I think it looks like Kair. I see a streak of blonde hair. I forget. And I can't remember who the other players.
It's probably Teo or something.
Teo, maybe that's Pulisic next to Mike. I don't know.
It's crazy because the player in the previous shot was really coming back, running back, and clearly they've gone straight sliding in whilst the shot was coming off. That's what's happened. Everyone's gone down because the shot was being taken, which has caused this mess.
And it looks worse in this. If you look at it like this makes it worse than it really in live. And if you're watching it on TV,
it was pretty horrific live, Nico. Even
I didn't realize how bad it was until he posted this on his X account, and he broke it down, and I said, oh, wow. I said, okay, I have to share this with the group.
Right. So do you want to move to the next one, Nico, and see?
Yes, let's do it.
3 seconds later, this.
God, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So we got 1, 2, 3 players in the box. We have 4 players shifted all the way to the left side. The most dangerous player on the pitch is all by himself.
Yes.
And not one player within 10 yards of him.
This is a point that I wanted to ask you, Nico. Do you see how there's the ball and all of our players are looking at it and running towards it?
Sure.
This has happened over and again. Do you remember the PSG games? There was a lot of corners taken and the players all flooding towards the ball. And as you said, the most skillful player for Bologna is Xerxes, and he is sitting on the edge of the box waiting because there's a massive space that's about to open.
Again, it's like we said before in the previous 2 slides. Yeah, just the lack. You need to be compact as a defense, right? And close out spaces. And clearly, again and again, we're seeing it. That's not the case. I mean, why is Kair next to Mike? Well, we have 3 players next to the keeper. Why?
I was just about to say that in terms of like the economy, right, of the game, right? If you look at that, right, it's like what function is Kier actually serving there?
Nothing.
Like
He's
in
blocking
terms of,
Mike's view.
he's literally, yeah, that's the thing. He's literally, as opposed to actually helping, he's actually making the situation worse. It's like this is this is fucking horrific. Like for
Because in
Serie A
reality,
team to be playing like this.
yeah, and I mean, you would expect better from him too. He's not some 19-year-old kid playing for the first time in a big match.
Yeah.
You know, this looks like a Sunday league game in somewhere you'd see in the UK.
Thank you for saying that, Nico. That's exactly what I've been saying. Like the defending sometime, it wouldn't even fit in a Sunday league match.
And this is why we're giving up a ton of goals. People saying, well, we're in third place. We have this amount of points, yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. Look at the big picture.
Yeah.
But Nico, I want to ask you about this this particular shot as well. Is that
Sure.
we've never had, we've never been on the other opposite side of this situation where we have so many players in the box and in this space. For me, is that I observe, and I don't know whether you agree or not, but my opinion on our attack is that in a lot of cases, the build-up is very slow. The opponent, the opposition team has a lot of time to really organize their defense. But in this case, do you think that Bologna, the way that they play and how their attack was, is that before we were able to reorganize, they're able to exploit that period of transition?
Well, that goes back to our midfielders. We have a midfield stacked with attacking-minded players. The only one that can defend is Benny, but he's not back at 100%. He's playing limited minutes. So that was our, a lot of us got excited during when we picked up Tijani and Rubel off his cheeks. All right. But in reality, they're all the same player. They like to attack. Not one of them could play defense, and they're not. And this causes. But regardless, this unit has been playing together for how many games together, right? Tijani's been playing again and again. So you would think that they would be playing better as a unit and communicating better. They're not doing it.
If you look at this shot, 7 players are running from Milan, are running towards the ball.
Why?
That's incredible.
That's insane. That's just it's just a lack, like I said, being prepared, lack of not talking to your teammates. And now with the starting 11 that we've seen the starting 11 majority of the time, correct? The last few games?
Yes.
They should be playing better at this point.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be happening. This looks like a team that just played together for the first time.
Right.
See, here's the situation with that though. Do you remember, according to reports, this came out a couple of months ago, that after a game, Pioli doesn't say anything to the players, and for a while it was Zlatan's job.
Sure.
This is what causes that, right? It's no one is accountable in the team for not doing their job.
But yeah, Shane. But can you imagine in a stadium full of 70,000 screaming fans, the ultras chanting, singing? How much instruction do you think Pioli can give him on the pitch? He can only drag one player occasionally when on a throw-in, or if the play is slowed down on the other side of the pitch, to bring one of the players over and speak to him. It's not like a youth game in the U.S. where there's 20 parents. Even then, when I was coaching at a youth game with 50 parents, 60, I think my kids couldn't even hear me across the pitch. So how do you expect them? That's where Mike. But if you see, even at MLS level games in the U.S., and I've watched them, I've been there firsthand at the ground level with the coaching staff. I mean, once or twice, and you can see keeper is always communicating with his team consistently, yelling out instructions again and again and again. Press, shift, watch this player, etc. And it looks like that in this case, from these visuals that we're seeing, because this looks like Mike is not doing that, and that's where I have a problem. Not with Pioli not giving instructions. I blame the back line.
So Nico, the other thing I wanted to point out is that I've noticed this in the other games that we played, including in Europe, but it's we don't have a chance to catch anyone offside. Our box is so overloaded, right, with attacking players from the opposition player. But we look at our basically 4 players. They're basically on the goal line almost. They're dropping into the goal line. These players can literally just come as far forward as they want. They'll
Correct.
never be caught offside, which
We're
is
never playing an offside trap.
no. And it's astounding. It's astounding. So let's move to the next shot, Nico. It's just 3 seconds
Do it.
later. It's incredible.
Yeah. Again,
So I'll try this with my pen so that you can kind of say, look at this.
sure. There's 2 opportunities there for them to score.
Yeah.
He has 2 options. The ball's right there in front of the goal. Yep.
And
Even if he
100%,
closes it
Nico,
down,
he was the most dangerous player on that pitch.
yeah. It's not a surprise. And according to Pioli during his press conference, he mentioned that he's the most dangerous player.
Yeah. And ultimately,
I'm
the
sure-
ball did come out to Zirkzee, who finished it off, right? So,
It's not like a surprise. It's like this kid just came on to the pitch, first time playing for Bologna. We didn't know who he was.
yeah, exactly.
And that's what makes it extra concerning then. Because you know yourself, right? It's all about damage limitation. And if you're leaving the most dangerous player on the pitch alone, like that's just, I mean,
Let me tell you, how often do you see Leao being left on the pitch by himself?
100%, that's correct. Like he's
Never.
got 2, sometimes 3 players on him at some point. Like,
And we have a stronger right side. We have Pulisic, who's more dangerous than the previous right wingers, and we'll get into that later, more in depth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
this is unexcusable.
Yeah, so that's a great breakdown, and that's the great thing about having Nico today, so we can really get into that. So there's one thing I wanted to mention since we've got you all here. Yesterday, I was watching the press conference after the game, right? And in the review, one of the things that one of the journalists mentioned was this, which is we are so not used to Milan winning games. Serie A teams, actually, he said, we're not used to Serie A teams winning games this way, in such a messy way. And then I thought, guys, we have been judging our team the entire season according to Serie A standards. The Serie A standards are like Inter, who've conceded 10 all season, Juve, who've conceded 13 all season. You can go down to Atalanta, Bologna, and Roma. They've all, and actually Lazio, Fiorentina, and Napoli have conceded fewer than us, right? So far this season. And I thought there's something that is in my mind. I'm thinking, I've seen this kind of games more often because of where I live, but it never kind of tweaked with me that perhaps we should have a look at the Premiership to see what goals for and against are, because one of the things about the Premiership is that every game almost is a complete goal fest. It's a mess defensively. And so I thought, okay, keep this in mind, guys. 46 goals for, 27 against in 23 games. Just keep that in mind. If we switch to the Premiership, look at Man City. Now, this is the club that is considered, in the Premiership, one of the greatest clubs that have been around in recent years. Look at even Arsenal here. Yeah. The goals for and against are very similar. And look at Aston Villa in 4th place, 30 goals against. And I can tell you, nobody here bats an eyelid regarding their defensive frailty. It's because our standard is that of a Serie A club. That's what we're used to, right? Historically, we're used to our defensive strength and everything being built on defense. What Pioli appears to have done, and also we discussed this, I'm pretty sure, Shane, you and I spoke about this a few months ago, that we have overloaded the squad with players from the Premiership, and they are actually playing like they are in the Premiership. So they're winning games just by, I'll score more than you. They're not winning games by any defensive. Nico,
John,
your great
can I say
comments
something?
today.
Can I say
The great
two
comments
things?
today about the complete lack of defensive organization.
Can I say something? Two
Yeah,
things.
please.
One, about Man City. It's funny that you show those stats because if you look at social media and you hear talk about other coaches, you always hear about Pep, how innovative it is with his defense, again and again and again. I've made some comments about this in the past. So, but if you look at the stats, I don't know why they rave about Pep's tactics, especially defensively, because that's not the case. And they have the money and the funds to get good defensive players. Two, I think the fact that the reason why we loaded our team with so many EPL style players, I think management saw how we lost against Chelsea. We had trouble with Chelsea last year. And they said, wow, look at the difference, the speed, and we're slow, we're not as physical as them. And they wanted to kind of compete on that level with them. And that's the reason why we're at in the situation that we are right now.
Yeah,
They wanted to replicate EPL teams.
Yes, I think so. And later on, we'll go to this, Nico, as well, and the Pioli comments, because we've got some interesting stuff that we've been able to pull up. But since we've got you here, Nico, we've got a few questions for you. I hope you don't mind.
No, I got them. I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. So Nico is going to bring this up. All right. We start with your question, Shane, that you posted to Nico earlier on. If rumors are to be believed, we are going for Conte. And I mean, all the Italian press is saying Conte is the person. There's literally no other discussion anymore in Italy. Everything's about Conte. If this is the truth, who do you see as leaving the club due to being surplus to his playing system?
All right, so kind of diving into Conte in the past in Juve, well, excluding Chelsea, he played a 3-1-4-2 in position, right? Because he didn't have any attacking midfielders, and he had his wing backs higher up in the pitch and overload with his midfielders. So he was playing more of an attacking with his two outside backs. At Inter, he kind of switched it between 3-1-4-2 in position and a 3-5-2, which a lot of us talk about, right? So he's open to playing different styles of football, or in formation, in position. In defense, especially at Juve, he played a 5-3-2 mid block and sometimes a low block as well. So he was very defensive minded. So that being said, I think Conte is open to, depending on his players that he has, he's going to play that style of football that fits who he has. So it's going to be difficult to say who's going to go. But I think that the biggest one is because Conte's a completely different coach than Pioli. Pioli is a very friendly coach. He's very player friendly. Conte doesn't take any BS. He's very tough on his players, expects a lot. And I think anybody who's not going to get on board, who has an attitude problem, will be let go first.
Okay. So linked to that, what can you think you'll expect from Conte's style of football from a spectator perspective?
Well,
do you think it'll be more exciting or more conservative?
Well, we've shown in the past he's played exciting football. He does allow his wing backs to go up the pitch. So we'll see Theo if he keeps them, and whoever, Florenzi or Calabria to be more attack minded. So in that sense, yes, there's a possibility that we'll be more attack minded. But defensively, we will be better as well at the same time, because he does play that mid block. He doesn't take those chances higher up the pitch like Pioli does. It will be more organized in the back line.
Yeah. So should I ask this, Shane? Your third question is Husney Darth Vader?
Dude, well, I think he is. Yeah. He if you look at the history of his posts and his emojis and whatnot, yeah.
Never seen Husney and Darth Vader in the same room.
No.
Exactly.
Very
Yeah, I
good.
just hope we don't get a copyright strike by mentioning a lot of Star Wars here. But yeah,
Stop
we'll
it.
find
Stop
out
it.
soon enough.
Yeah.
This nobody from Disney is listening to this, so we're fine.
Right. So, Nico, the next question is, and I thought about this, after watching Pioli ball for the last few years, right? I have come to not be sure what Pioli ball is, Nico. So, what would you describe his playing style as? Does he fit any kind of method? I know you like to think about different types of coaching. I know you talk about loads of coaching in South America, for example, where you have positional coaches. I understand. I see your posts, right? But where does Pioli fit into it? Because to me, honestly, as a non-expert, it seems to me he puts players out, hopes for one moment of magic, and then just hopes we can hold on. I don't see any consistent. Like we said earlier, you said this. We know what Juve's system is. We know what Allegri ball is. We know what Inzaghi does. Please tell me, what do you understand Pioli to do?
Well, on paper, and I've spoken to some other people about this. On paper, Pioli kind of fits between playing that traditional European style of positional soccer football and relationships, which you see some clubs like Fluminense plays with relationship, which means that kind of football allows for more freedom from certain players, and it directs those players to not wait for the ball in their part of the pitch, but actually go where the ball is to create those relationships between players. So, for example, great example,
Okay.
Theo and Leao. We're not seeing it as much anymore because a lot of times we're not seeing it as much as in the past. But when it does happen, Theo and Leao play together. They're doing those 1-2s, the overlaps on the left side. It's really, really successful when they do it, but it's not consistent. I'm not sure why. Maybe because there have been times where Theo's been placed as a center back, which is, we'll get to that later on. So that's on paper, that's what it is. And we've seen it from time to time, that style of football from Pioli and his team. But it's not consistent enough at all. And we're seeing it because from time to time we do see it. And other times, majority of the time, we're just seeing, like you said, we're waiting for that one moment of brilliance from Leao, or maybe Loftus-Cheek to do something, or a header from Giroud, or a late game goal from Okafor or Jovic.
So
But
you're
it's
saying
not-
that his style is a
go ahead.
mixture of
It's a mixture, but it's not our DNA. It's not an imprint. It's not like Barcelona, where you know how they're going to play every game.
Okay. So you mentioned Theo, so we might as well go to Theo. Pioli has said quite openly in a post-game interview when he was playing Theo as centre-back over and again, he said he could extend his career by playing as centre-back. Now, obviously, we've seen that with Maldini, but that was a completely different animal. Maldini was a defensive, in his early years, he was an offensive beast as well, but then he had, a sliding tackle, Jesus, of a level that I've never seen since, actually, before or since. Would you agree with Pioli's comment that Theo could become a centre-back?
No, I'll tell you why. Big no. First, it's not like this is not youth level football where you can just put kids in at any position at any time for them to get experience. Players at this level need a whole preseason, in my opinion, to understand a new position. Because in Theo's mind, the way his DNA is to be an attacking minded player first. He's not great on 1v1s, and he needs time to build that relationship and trust with his other center back, if we play a 4-back, and that relationship with his keeper. You can't do that in a week in practice. It takes a whole preseason to get that done. Because a center back, you need to understand how to read the game, how to set up the offsides trap, and like I mentioned before, communicate with your other center back and your keeper. And Theo doesn't have it because he doesn't have enough time. And Pioli, in my opinion, this is another example of him setting up his team and players for failure.
Okay. That's pretty clear, and I agree with you, Nico, absolutely on that one. So Pioli says he hates talking about fixed positions for players. You'll see him time and again, pre and post games. People will say to him, Musa didn't do well in that position. This is famously when he was a right back, right? And Krunic, a centre back. I'm sorry. Husney, don't cry, please. I've mentioned his name, but I have to mention his name. But do you think, Nico, this insistence that Pioli has on not talking about fixed positions is down to what you described earlier, that he's trying to come up with this system that is not based on,
Listen,
fixed?
John.
Yeah.
First of all, unless he wants to start playing like that team from Brazil, Fluminense, that plays a very Brazilian old 80s, 70s style of football, where players are always rotating positions. You'll see the forward sliding as a center back, but that's the Brazilian DNA. All right, we don't have those kind of players because most of them have played in Europe the majority of their lives. Second, you need like I said before, you need a whole preseason or several seasons to get that team to play like that. All right. Great example, Diniz, right? The coach of Fluminense was put as a coach for the Brazilian national team not too long ago, but he was let go. He tried to impose that style of play with his Brazilian team, but since he has on the squad, he had a few European players from Newcastle, and
I see.
It didn't fit. They couldn't understand because that style of play, you need to overload. Everybody overloads on either the left side of the pitch, the right side of the pitch, and you have maybe one person open on the other side for the switch. And you need a midfielder that can control the tempo of the game. And it didn't work for Brazil because during the qualifying rounds for the World Cup, they were struggling because they couldn't understand that style of play. They've been playing European football for so long. Same thing with Pioli. Pioli just can't say, well, let's not worry about positions. Because that's crazy, because by throwing Musa as a right back and Krunic in center back, again, you're expecting these players to learn a new position on the spot. You're throwing them in the fire. So yeah, good luck. Hope for the best, guys. Let's see what you guys can do.
Right. So I'm going to move to I think one of the best questions, one of the interesting comments. So Pellegatti, who's one of the biggest journalists for Milan, he had on his channel, he's got like 150,000 subs. I'm one of them. And he invited a guest on his show. His name is Luca Didi, who is a UEFA A licensed coach. And I sent him his details to you, Nico, and I know you've looked into him. He came up with such an interesting explanation as to why this year we are so flooded with goals against. Of course, you can mention he says the obvious things are, and he goes back to Kessie not being replaced. That's the obvious thing. Kessie was an absolute incredible defensive player, and he offered such solidity to the back four that was never replaced in his opinion. But he then talked about something interesting about Pulisic versus Salad Maker and Messias on the right-hand side and what they offered on the defensive side of the game. And he talked about this also having an effect on Leao. And the thing he described was this potential rotation that's happened to the squad because Pulisic is there. So I'm going to try and share what I basically drew from what Luca Didi said so that you can talk about it, and Nico, in a little bit more detail. So let's go to this one, share, and tell me if you can see this.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
So what Luca Didi said was that last season we had Leao and Salad and Messias, and as you can see, basically his opinion was that Salad and Messias are more defensive-minded players, so they offered more solidity on the right-hand side. That allowed Leao to actually be the spear of the attack, giving him more kind of space up the front. And he said that this year, with Pulisic coming in, we now have attacking players on both sides, and Pulisic doesn't offer, in his mind, the defensive solidity that Salah and Messias had. What do you think of this concept? Because I'd never heard that explanation before.
Well, first off, he does have a point, but I disagree to an extent. Sorry, Luca. Because Pulisic does play defense. Yeah, he does play defense. I've seen it in the games that I've watched. And I don't know how many games Luca's watched. I don't know. Maybe he's watched a lot as well. From my point of view, Pulisic plays. So let's just focus on the defensive side first. Because you asked another question about Leao's output as well. But it also falls upon our midfield has gotten weaker as well. Besides Kessie, when you see our lineup, especially on the left side of Leao, Tijani, and Theo all stacked on the left from game to game, that's a side of the field where any coach will expose. Tijani doesn't play great defense. He doesn't win the ball in the midfield, higher up the pitch. Leao occasionally comes back and helps out. And Theo is Theo. He's like I said, we said it before, he's not Maldini. He's not a great defensive left back. So that's the first thing. And I think if Conte does come in, he will correct those issues right off the bat from day one. Also, in terms of Leao was the fulcrum of the attack, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of quickly point out, I think kind of the same thing as I said before. I think it really falls down to our what's happened with their midfield more than Pulisic coming in.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what I think. That's because from what the way I look at the game, and a few other coaches that I've spoken to as well. I mean, every coach, there's no blueprint on how to build a team. Everybody has their own opinion and philosophy. The midfield is the heartbeat of your team. From setting up the tempo to creating that defensive structure to cover your back line. If you don't have that, you're just going to be overran and we're seeing that. We're being overran in midfield almost every game. And especially, we mentioned the PSG game earlier, right?
Yeah.
In the first game, I don't have my notes with me, but that kid Emery, the talented kid midfielder from PSG, destroyed us the first game. He was the reason why they were able to get the ball up the pitch and get it out to the wings, get out to Mbappe and the other guy on the right hand side, Dembele. Second game, if you noticed, we were more effective. We played a different approach. We shut down Emery completely. So we took away that heartbeat of PSG. We took it away. Now that was the reason we were able to beat them in that second leg. And that proves my point right there. And our midfield is not consistent. They've shown some moments where they played okay defensively, but majority of the time they're just it's a mess.
And do you know, Nico, something else that was interesting about Luca Didi, because Pellegatti asked him, what would you do if you're in a Pioli situation now and this is your squad? What do you do? And basically, he said, this is the most unbalanced Milan squad that we've had in a long time. I'm not sure I could do much with it in terms of changing the playing style. That's what he said.
I think he has a good point too.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Hasn't any more questions for Nico before we move to Pioli Corner?
Yeah, I have a question for Nico, but this is more towards the backroom stuff, because one of the things that, let's face it, one of the big elephants in the room that happened during the summer was the departure of Maldini. I just want to ask your opinion in terms of the coaching staff. How important is it to have such leadership in that coaching staff? Because what I see of the team or the players that we have now, we got players like Kier, like Giroud and all that. they're on their way out. So do you necessarily need to have that idol or that legend in your squad or as part of your backroom staff to really help the other players in terms of getting them, playing better or improving with their mentality?
No, I would hope not. I mean, look at does Real Madrid have any legends sitting on the bench or in the back room?
Ancelotti's a legend.
Yeah, okay, but
Yeah.
he's the coach. But I'm saying they haven't brought back any ex-stars, legends to be part of the
I think they
team
have
anymore.
Roberto Carlos. I think he's part of the management team, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he? Okay. Well, mistaken. But regardless, I think as a player, just walking in and putting that badge on and walking into Casa Milan and looking at the trophies, the whole presentation in the big trophy room, and looking at all all the jerseys all the awards, just the history should be enough to get him motivated. If that can't motivate you enough to play for our squad, there's nothing else to say.
Well, unless you get PIF money, then it's
Yeah,
and
so like,
for motivation.
and bringing Ibra, I guess I don't know what that reason was, but I don't know if Ibra came on just to make a little bit more cash or to actually motivate. But how much can he motivate the team?
Well, from what I've seen is that they brought Ibra just to tell Forlani, or I guess most importantly to Cardinale, just to change the coach. Something that an idea that was floated last season already. So they just got the same guy to come back and say, "Oh, it's actually the same thing."
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's being paid just for that one sentence of advice.
Yeah. Okay. Should we move to Pioli Corner? Because actually, this feeds into a lot of the things we've been talking about today. A lot of the subjects, actually.
Sure. Let me bring up the graphic. Yeah. Beautiful. And here we are, Pioli Corner. So, John, what do we have Pioli Corner this week?
Okay. Pioli Corner. Right. It was a strange game. Milan v Bologna post, okay? It was a strange game. We conceded on many levels, but also created a lot. There are even 2 missed penalties. Once again, with the numerical advantage, we were not able to concentrate. It's a real shame. This could have been a really important victory for us. Clearly, we gave it everything we could, but unfortunately, we just couldn't win. In my mind, on the offensive phase, we did well. We were more aggressive, but we conceded occasions. We wanted the 5th straight win. In the first half, we could have done more. 4 yellow cards were very dangerous for us. We wanted to remain 11 v 11. We can't be happy with this. We want more. We are creating so many chances, and this needs to continue. So Ruben Loftus-Cheek was then asked in post-game for his comments, and he says, "I'm disappointed after that, but we need to see out games in the second half. That mentality is something that we need to be better at. We need to move on from this and focus on the next one. I was waiting on that first goal at the San Siro, so to get 2 was amazing. It was a magical feeling. Shame we couldn't get the win, but we move on." He said, "My best ever total in any team is 10 goals a season when I was playing close to goal like I am doing now." Now, back to Pioli questions. And someone said to him, "I imagine there is a lot of bitterness in that game." And Pioli says, "Very bad, very bad. On the 90th minute, that game was ours. We were playing an excellent game. We have to learn and restart with more strength and energy." Was that game a good game or an unlucky game? His answer: "There is no good or bad luck. We played with determination and wanted to win. We were ahead with just so many errors." Someone said, "Leao had a good game. He found spaces and got himself into good positions. Is this what you ask of him? What do you think he is missing?" His answer: "Leao did well. He did well. Clearly, I wanted him to return to scoring in Serie A, but not for the squad, for him. He is playing with continuity. He is almost always involved in goal creations. There is a lot to learn from the way we conceded those goals. A lot. In the defensive phase, we just have to do better." On the last penalty at the end, when we talk about the last incident, so one of the reporters tried to blame Kier. and said Kier came out to Xerxes, and Pioli stops him and says, hang on, Xerxes is the centre forward for Bologna. Who the hell is supposed to stop him? A midfielder? The problem wasn't that Kier came out to stop Xerxes. The problem was Okafor's position and many other things as a squad. The reporter then tries to talk and Pioli stops him. He goes, wait. Also, Bologna attacked with many players and we dropped deep, which we saw. If we had stayed deep and not kept being aggressive, then I would understand your comment. But that was not the problem. It is correct to say that there are many things that we need to do better. Then a reporter says, 25 goals conceded, Mr. Pioli. This was against Bologna. And he just stops the report and says, too many. Unfortunately, we just cannot concentrate for a full 95 minutes. Is it a problem of concentration? Or is it a problem of determination? And he says, we cannot score 3 goals every game to win them. This isn't sustainable. We will work on this from Monday. We have ambition. These are situations where the whole squad, midfielders, defenders, and attackers have to defend better. Then the ex-player Matri, in another show, asked him the question. Leao is, of course, wonderful on the ball. That is not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about his work without the ball. To me, he did a lot more during the Scudetto season. What is your opinion on his work without the ball? Pioli says, I often tell Leao not to track back and stay high. Everyone knows that on the counter and restart of a movement, he is a weapon in our armory that is advantageous to us. Can he sometimes be more attentive? Yes, okay. But he gives us so much on the counter and on the offensive phase that we can't ask him for everything. Then Marco Parolo, ex-player again, asked him, Mr. Pioli, what will make you happy this season? And he says, if we have a lot better season than the last one, and if we go really, really far in the Europa League. Loftus-Cheek has scored 4 goals in the last 4 games. What is your assessment of the player? And this is Pioli's assessment of Loftus-Cheek. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a player of real quality. I have also coached Sergei Milinkovic, and he reminds me of him. I did not see him as being so offensively minded, but after just 2 weeks of him being with us, it became clear that he was going to score a lot of goals. His physicality, his quality, and he is mentally and physically well now. He went through a rough patch when he played with a groin strain, so was not training at all between games. Now he is finally well. I'm convinced that he is really an important player for us. He is also a player who wants to listen, to learn, and make himself available all the time. I hope he can continue like this. Pre-Frosinone game. Mr. Pioli, I have been watching and waiting for Milan to sign players. This you'll hear it's about your transfer window, Shane. I kept an eye on the list of players that we were linked to. No central defender came, despite you clearly stating that we were going to bring one in. Then on Pellegrini leaving, this troubles me. He just came back from injury and you loaned him out. Please talk us through these decisions. On the defender, no player could be identified that fit my criteria. I wanted a particular level of quality. I wanted someone with no need to learn the language or acclimatized to the league. There was no one available who fit those descriptions. None of the choices in this window could improve us, in my opinion. In midfield, we believe that Zeroli and Benacer will go and give us a good job moving forward. And then the interviewer says, Mr. Pioli, what about Buongiorno? Pioli gave no response. And on the Pellegrino issue, please, Mr. Pioli, he needs to play. In my opinion, if he stayed with us, he would have struggled. Capello is one of our great managers, and he asks why Milan disassembled the midfield of Kessie, Tonali, and Çalhanoğlu. What do you have to say about this, Mr. Pioli? He said, we can't go back that far. Çalhanoğlu hasn't played for us in years. We won Serie A without him. Frank Kessie made another choice. I like the squad I have. Compared to last year's, today we have scored 5 goals more and conceded 5 goals less. That doesn't mean all is well. There are many things we can do better, but the group knows this. We want to win as many games as possible, and we will see where we stand in the end. But the defensive problems, Mr. Pioli, what are they down to? The players at your disposal? And he goes, communication, attention, determination, intensity. And yes, the characteristics of some of our players are different to ones we had last year. We have changed the team's barometer, and we have conceded 5 less goals than last year when we had Tonali, Diaz, and Krunic. I think the squad this year has to think and believe that they will score more goals than the opposition. It's just the way we have to play. Someone said, Nico, please explain the Simic and Terracciano situation on the UEFA list. I think that there has been some confusion, Pioli said. The choice was not actually between Simic and Terracciano. Simic cannot be in the list that includes Terracciano, called the B list. Simic can only be included in the A list, meaning that we would have to remove a player on the A list for him to play, which to me makes a non-decision. Guys, I then looked at what this list was. So please listen. The A list is Magnan, Theo Hernandez, Kalulu, Kier, Chow, Tomori, Adli, Benacer, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Musa, Pulisic, Reindeer, Chucky, Giroud, Leao, Okafor, and Jovic. So Pioli's counting on us staying in the Europa League for long enough for Kalulu to come back, Tomori to come back, Chow to come back, and obviously for Kier to be able to hold the fort until then. Just so you know. So Terracciano is on the B list, which includes Portiello, Mirante, Florenzi. Just so I pointed this out to clarify for everybody what the situation is. So that completes Pioli Corner. Any comments, guys? Because that was quite a lengthy one. Yes.
About Simic. Wow. So he was supposed to be, he was left out because of the A list, correct? Is that my understanding? Yes. So Kalulu is on that list. A player who's hasn't played in how long?
Yeah.
Has been out for how many months? So even if he comes back by then, is he going to be 100%? No, he's going to be out of form. You have a kid in Simic who's supposed to be our next star or our next starter future player, correct? In his limited time, he's shown that he's got a complete game, can bring the ball up, has good passing range. He's physical on 1v1 situations, doesn't make any mistakes, right? And you leave that kid off the list for a player who was even struggling a bit when he was healthy, and hoping he gets back in form in time for Europa. Where even if we get past that first leg game, the first 2 legs against that French team, what is that French team again? Rennes.
Stade Rennais,
Stade Rennais.
Yeah. Then we have who's left. You have Liverpool is sitting there waiting for us. Much tougher teams. And some of our fan base, we have this hope that we can win that tournament.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
Agreed. Guys. Yeah, no. But there's a lot of interesting stuff said there about. First, he said we shouldn't count on scoring. We shouldn't concede so many goals, and then he says maybe this season we have to score more than the opposition. It's just the way it is. Just like what?
John, something we talked about if you're comfortable talking about this, is the fact that the American audience, when it's translated, is not this information is not being translated for us. Correct? From what or they're just lazy, or they're just leaving that portion out, which is a disservice to us fans, English-speaking fans.
You'll only hear what Redbird wants you to hear, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like it's you know, the translation will only be perfect if it suits the Redbird demo.
Yeah, but they're missing if they're missing out important content in these interviews, and that's not being. We're not seeing it. It's not translated to us. That's a huge disservice. That's like, why would you? It looks bad. That's all I'm saying. When you're
we
trying
had
to
this
grow
discussion
with an American ownership too, and you're trying to grow the brand in the US, for example.
Yeah. Nico, we had this
Nico,
discussion.
Can I just say
Nico,
one
it's
thing?
not like
Yeah.
Cardinale wants to listen to Pioli, right?
Yeah.
It's not like he cares not to listen to what Pioli says.
But what's highly concerning, I won't mention other channel names, but there is one specific channel that does a bit of content for Milan that also, it's kind of like it's also like a news page, without mentioning any names.
Yeah.
But I have seen that they are towing the party line very much. So I noticed that essentially around the, do you know the way that Maldini was kind of chucked? There was quite a lot of the information that was coming out of there. You know had been basically kind of prepped by Redbird and then fed to them and said, send this out, please. Very biased information.
Yeah. I appreciate that we are 1 hour 21. It was a really interesting talk today, and I really want to thank you, Nico, because it was going through that defensive stuff was, invaluable, dude. So
it was a good time. I'm glad. I'm happy to have you guys.
No, thank you, dude. I really, honestly, thanks. I think we're going to skip the Calabria for another day because we're going to give him more time. We really need to give Calabria a lot of time.
we need a Calabria special.
Video.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
But just to top it off, thanks again, Nico, for being with us today. For those who are listening and watching, please follow his YouTube channel, Defensive Dynamo, and also his social media. And of course, you will see him on the MWP network very soon. And to everyone who's been part of our show today, thanks. If I get the names, sorry if I miss anyone out. I saw Fabio, I saw Nathan there, Paul, Christian Pazmino. So thanks for chipping in on the chat, and we look forward to seeing everyone. And to those who are listening around the world, Forza Milan, and look forward to another episode of Milanistas 360 next week.
And like and subscribe, because if you I will find you and kill you.
Shane will do that. The rest of us.
Ciao, Forza Milan.
All right, Forza Milan. All right.
All right.
Italia!